Well, if you go outside right now, you're going to notice a few clouds out there, and I think it's going to get a little bit heavier as the day goes on. So you can see that they're mostly upper level clouds at the moment. I can see those dropping just a little bit, and that's really going to depend on that humidity, which is still sitting in the mid 40s, which is a little bit high even for this time of year. But if we can stay right around 44 to about 50%, that is when we can see some of those lower clouds coming in to block out some of that heat. And that's something we could be having later on today. At least something else we're looking at is going to be a light southeast wind. That is also going to be calming down as the day goes on. A lot of those upper level winds are actually coming from the west and the north. That's where a lot of these clouds are going to be coming from. So look over to that way if you want to know what you can expect to move into your area. But at least out there, I am looking at a lot of us really staying in the mid 80s. There's not going to be too many spots that I'm seeing in the upper 80s out there. So the only areas I could actually see that happening to is going to be closer towards the mountains and down near the south. So if you're near Corona de Tucson or the east side, I'm thinking those two are going to be the warmest spots. If you're closer towards Avra Valley, 3 Points, or Tucson Estates, more cloud cover expected towards the west. So I think you're going to be hanging behind just a few extra degrees out there without too much sunshine. But at least for the first part of the day, I am expecting sunny and warmer conditions, which is something else to watch. All right. So the rest of the area here, you are going to see some of us in the 80s, some of us in the 70s. One of the warmer spots, of course, is going to be Ajo. They could reach 90 degrees later today. They're starting off in the low 60s, which is a good sign for them to reach 90 degrees. For just about everyone else, starting out cooler than them in the 50s or even 40s out there, which is why a lot of places, especially over near Cochise County, are going to be in the 70s for their high temperatures. Now, Benson, I do think, is going to be reaching the lower 80s. Not going to be too far ahead of everyone else, though. Only 81 degrees, while Tombstone's sitting at 77. You're going to have Sierra Vista 75. The coolest spot I'm looking at is going to be Bisbee at about 71. All right, so we do have a front off the coast of California and Oregon. This is where a lot of that cloud cover is coming from. So if you're wondering why it's going to be coming from the west and not from the south, which is the direction of the wind, it's because of that system right there. So it's going to push some clouds closer towards Tucson. You're even seeing some rain around LA and San Diego. That's all going to die out before it reaches Arizona. So I'm not expecting any real good chance of rain in any portion of the state over the next week. Next week might be a different story, but of course, if we see rain in Arizona, I do think the southern portion is going to be the least likely spot to see it. Now, as we will go on throughout the day here, there's going to be some clouds here and there. I do think it's going to break up by 5 o'clock or so and get a little bit better. Now, for overnight, if the clouds hang around, you're going to be waking up to low temperatures that might be in the 60s for Tucson. But if they break up a little bit like you're seeing with this model right here, what that's going to do is allow some of that heat to escape and let us get a little bit cooler for overnight. But I do think the afternoons are going to be the most consistent temperatures out there. A lot of us are going to be in the 80s. There's not going to be any rain in sight, and we could see some wind gusts, as I mentioned before, upwards of 20 miles per hour over the next week. But as you can see right here, plenty of sunshine, lots of 80s over the next week, lots of 50s. No real big changes expected over the next 7 days with those temperatures, which is of course going to be nice as it's going to be in the lower 80s throughout most of the time. That was weather. Let's check in with traffic real quick before we head out the door. And we were looking at a couple different wrecks